Barron Trump's kindness often gets lost in the shadow of his renowned family name. But today, his heartwarming actions proved he's far more than just a famous surname. When a little girl's world crumbled over a lost teddy bear, Barron unexpectedly became her hero, restoring her hope and showing us all the true power of compassion. It was just an ordinary afternoon in Washington, D.C. The air was crisp, the sky a vivid blue, and the streets buzzed with people going about their routines. Yet, in the middle of this bustling city, a small yet significant tragedy unfolded in the most unexpected place, a peaceful park near the White House. In the middle of a grassy field stood a little girl, no older than 6, her eyes wide with panic. She frantically searched through the grass, clutching her mother's hand. Tears streamed down her cheeks as she called out in a trembling voice, "Teddy, where are you?" Her cherished stuffed bear, her constant companion since birth, was gone. To her, Teddy wasn't just a toy. He was her protector, her confidant, and her best friend. Every night, Teddy stood guard as she drifted off to sleep. But now, without him, the little girl felt a void she had never known before. Unbeknownst to her, Barron Trump was nearby. He had been strolling through the park, enjoying the serenity and escaping the chaos of his family's life. As he walked past a small playground, his attention was drawn to the little girl. Her tear-streaked face and visible distress struck a chord deep within him. Without hesitation, he approached her cautiously, his presence gentle and non-threatening. "Hey, what's wrong?" Barron asked, his voice soft but filled with genuine concern. The little girl, startled by his sudden approach, glanced up at him. Her tearful eyes glistened as she wiped her face with the back of her hand. I lost my teddy bear," she stammered, holding her empty arms out as if to show what was missing. Barron's heart softened. He crouched down to meet her at eye level, his kind expression putting her at ease. He knew how much these moments mattered, especially to a child. Losing a beloved stuffed animal could feel like losing a piece of your soul. Without missing a beat, Barron gave her a reassuring nod. "I'll help you find him," he said, his tone calm yet determined. The little girl's face lit up, a faint glimmer of hope replacing her despair. It wasn't much, but it was enough. She had feared she'd never see Teddy again, but now, with this stranger offering his help, her small heart felt a flicker of relief. "Really?" she asked, her voice small but tinged with hope. Barron smiled warmly and nodded once more. He didn't know how long it might take, or if they'd even find the bear, but he wasn't about to leave her to face this alone. "I'll do my best," he replied firmly. With that, their search began. As they wandered the park, Barron asked her questions about Teddy. Was he big or small? What color was he? Did he have anything special, like clothes or unique features? The girl eagerly described him, his soft brown fur, his button-like eyes, and the little red bow tie he always wore. Every detail painted a vivid picture in Barron's mind as he scanned the area for any sign of the missing bear. They looked together, side by side. The girl's eyes stayed glued to the grass and trees, while her small hand clung tightly to Barron's sleeve. Though she was still upset, she found comfort in knowing someone was there, sharing her search. As they ventured further into the park, Barron's sharp eyes landed on a small bench beneath a sprawling oak tree. It seemed an unlikely place for a teddy bear to be, but something about it caught his attention. He felt an odd pull toward the spot, something about the shaded bench, maybe the way it sat slightly away from the main path. Barron gestured toward it. "What about over there?" he asked, pointing at the bench. The little girl frowned, shaking her head. "That's not where I left him," she said hesitantly, her voice carrying a hint of doubt. "But I'll look anyway." Barron couldn't help but smile, admiring her determination. Together, they made their way to the bench. Barron crouched down, scanning the ground beneath it. Fallen leaves blanketed the area, along with a few scraps of litter, but there was no sign of the missing bear. "Maybe we should check near the swings?" Barron suggested, glancing at her for approval. The girl nodded, and they walked toward the swings. As they approached, Barron noticed the joyful laughter of children playing in the distance. Their happiness made him think of how much a simple toy, like a teddy bear, could mean to a child. When they arrived, the swings stood empty, swaying gently in the breeze. The two searched the area carefully, but still, no Teddy. The girl's small shoulders began to slump, her steps becoming slower as the weight of disappointment set in. Barron noticed the shift in her demeanor, his heart aching for her. He wanted to say, "It'll be okay, we'll find him," but deep down, even he wasn't sure. Instead, he paused, crouching to her level. "Do you want to take a break?" he asked gently, seeing the weariness in her young eyes. She nodded quietly, and they both sat on the swings. For a moment, silence stretched between them, the only sound being the faint rustle of leaves and the distant laughter of children. As Barron swung lightly, he found his mind wandering. He had always been the quiet, reserved one in his family, often overlooked. Yet, here he was, sitting with a little girl who just needed someone to care, to help her. He realized how much these small, meaningful moments mattered to him, moments where he could just be himself without the pressure of the spotlight. "Thank you for helping me," the girl said softly, breaking the silence. Barron turned to her and smiled. "Of course," he replied simply. "Everyone deserves a little help sometimes." They sat for a little while longer before Barron stood, brushing off his pants. He glanced around the park again, scanning every inch for something, anything they might have missed. The park looked calm, families walking along the paths, children laughing and running around. But in the little girl's world, none of it mattered. Her thoughts were consumed by her lost teddy bear. Barron couldn't give up now, not when she had placed so much trust in him. "Let's keep looking," he said firmly, his voice laced with quiet determination. The girl nodded, slower this time, her expression tinged with uncertainty. But she stood up, ready to continue the search. She wasn't alone anymore, and Barron wasn't about to stop until they found that bear. She was willing to trust Barron's instincts. They both rose from the swing, stepping back into the heart of the park with renewed determination, searching every corner more carefully than before. Barron led the way toward the park's peaceful pond, a quiet spot where people often came to relax and take in the beauty of nature. It didn't seem like the most obvious place for a teddy bear to turn up, but Barron knew they couldn't leave any spot unchecked. The little girl, her small hand still gripping his tightly, followed close behind. As they approached the water, Barron's eyes scanned the path ahead. Ducks paddled lazily across the surface of the pond, their gentle ripples breaking the reflection of the trees above. But there was no sign of the teddy bear. When they reached the water's edge, Barron crouched down, peering closely at the area. "What do you think?" he asked, his tone calm yet tinged with hope. The little girl stared at the pond, her gaze lingering on the ducks before slowly turning to Barron. A faint smile played on her lips. "I don't think he's here," she murmured softly. Barron returned her smile, impressed by her growing resilience. Though she was still upset, it was clear she wasn't letting the disappointment overwhelm her. Her love for her teddy bear was undeniable, and her determination to find him was equally inspiring. Barron admired her spirit. They continued their search for what felt like hours, weaving through the park's winding paths. The little girl's expression would flicker between hope and sadness as they checked every hidden corner, looked under every bench, and examined every patch of grass. Barron's legs were beginning to ache from all the walking, but he refused to slow down. He could see that the girl was growing tired too. Her once energetic steps were now slower, her small body starting to drag with exhaustion. "We can rest for a bit if you'd like," Barron offered gently, noticing her fading energy. She nodded, her head dipping slightly as she sank onto a nearby bench. Barron sat beside her in silence, watching as she clasped her hands tightly in her lap. Her disappointment was evident. Her eyes, her posture, everything about her reflected the sadness of not finding her beloved Teddy. "I really miss him," she whispered, her voice barely above a breath. Barron's heart ached for her. He recognized that feeling, the deep, hollow ache of losing something that holds so much meaning. It brought back memories of his own childhood, times when he had lost something precious. While it wasn't quite the same, he understood how much this little girl's teddy bear meant to her. For her, Teddy wasn't just a toy. He was a friend, a source of comfort, and a piece of her world. "I know you do," Barron said softly, his voice warm and reassuring. He wanted to say the perfect thing to ease her pain, but sometimes words just weren't enough. Instead, he placed a comforting hand on her shoulder, giving it a gentle squeeze. After a moment of quiet, Barron spoke again. "You know," he began, his tone thoughtful, "sometimes things don't go the way we want them to. But that doesn't mean they won't get better." The little girl looked up at him, her sad eyes now mixed with a flicker of curiosity. "What do you mean?" she asked softly. Barron smiled faintly and took a deep breath. "Well," he said, "there have been times when I thought I'd never find what I was looking for. But hope." Barron chuckled softly, nodding as he met her gaze. "Yes, like me," he said warmly, his tone reassuring. "But also like your family, your friends, even Teddy. There will always be someone who cares about you and wants to help, no matter what." The little girl smiled, a look of understanding dawning on her face as she hugged Teddy even tighter. Barron stood, brushing the dust off his knees, and glanced around the park. The day, which had begun as a simple stroll, had turned into something much more meaningful. As the girl twirled with her bear in her arms, her laughter filling the air, Barron couldn't help but feel a deep sense of gratitude, not just for having helped her, but for being reminded of the power of small acts of kindness. "Will you stay here a little longer?" the girl asked, her voice hopeful as she paused in her happy dance. Barron smiled softly, his eyes reflecting a quiet joy. "I think I'll stay a while," he said, sitting back down on the bench. "It's a beautiful day, after all." The girl beamed at him before skipping off, her teddy bear clutched close, as if she would never let go again. Barron watched her for a moment, feeling a wave of contentment wash over him. This wasn't just about finding a toy. It was about hope, determination, and the simple connections that make life brighter. And in helping the little girl rediscover her happiness, Barron had found a piece of his own as well. Sometimes, it's the smallest things that leave the biggest impact. Barron leaned back on the bench, the corners of his lips lifting into a smile. The park seemed brighter now, filled with the laughter of children, the rustle of leaves, and the reminder that every act of kindness, no matter how small, has the power to change a day, or a life. Many more opportunities to make a difference in the lives of others. The park, now a quiet silhouette in the distance, held a memory that Barron would carry with him, a moment that reminded him of the power of empathy and the beauty of simply being there for someone in need. The little girl's laughter echoed faintly behind him, paired with her mother's grateful words. It was a sound that made the world feel lighter, brighter, even for just a moment. Barron had learned, yet again, that life's most valuable moments often came disguised as the smallest gestures, a shared search, a comforting word, or a helping hand extended when someone needed it most. Barron paused for a second, looking up at the evening sky, now painted in shades of orange and purple. He took a deep breath, letting the crisp air fill his lungs, and smiled softly to himself. Yes, today had been special. A reminder that even in the chaos of life, There was always room for kindness, always a reason to reach out and make someone's day a little better. As he walked on, Barron's mind turned to the future, to the many paths yet to be walked and the countless chances to touch another's life. Because sometimes, it wasn't about grand gestures or monumental achievements. Sometimes, it was simply about being present, offering a smile, and reminding someone, young or old, that they weren't alone. And in that moment, Barron felt at peace, knowing he had done just that. Saw the little girl from the park running toward him, her teddy bear still clutched tightly in her arms. Her face was glowing with excitement, and her smile was as bright as he remembered. Behind her, her mother followed with a warm smile, waving at him. "Hi there," Barron said, his face lighting up at the sight of them. "How's Teddy doing?" The little girl beamed and held the bear up proudly. "He's doing great. I take him everywhere now," she said, her voice filled with pure joy. Her mother approached, giving Barron a grateful nod. "We've been meaning to thank you again," she said warmly. "You really made a difference that day." Barron chuckled, shaking his head modestly. "It was nothing, really. I was just glad I could help," he replied. The mother smiled knowingly. "It may have seemed like a small thing to you, but to us, it meant the world. You reminded us that kindness still exists." Barron glanced down at the little girl, who was now sitting on the grass, talking animatedly to her teddy bear as if sharing secrets. He felt his chest swell with a sense of quiet pride. It wasn't every day that you got to see the impact of a simple act of kindness. "You know," he said, turning back to the mother, "that day taught me something too. It's easy to get caught up in everything going on around us, but moments like that, helping someone, seeing their happiness, those are what really matter." The mother nodded, her expression thoughtful. "I think you're right. It's those little moments that remind us what life is really about." Barron stayed with them for a few more minutes, chatting and catching up. As they laughed together, he felt a deep sense of connection, a reminder that, no matter who we are or where we come from, we're all part of something bigger, a shared human experience. Eventually, they said their goodbyes. The little girl waved enthusiastically, holding Teddy high in the air as she and her mother walked away. Barron stood there for a moment, watching them go, a smile lingering on his face. As he turned to continue his walk through the park, he couldn't help but feel that the world seemed a little brighter, a little kinder. And in that moment, he knew that the lessons he had learned that day, the importance of compassion, connection, and small acts of love, would stay with him forever. Life wasn't always about the big moments or grand gestures. Sometimes it was about simply being there, about sharing joy and easing someone's burden, no matter how small it might seem. And as Barron continued down the path, the sounds of the park buzzing around him, he felt at peace, ready to carry those lessons with him wherever life would take him next. Barron smiled gently, humbled by her words. "Well, I'm glad I could be there when you needed someone," he said. The little girl tugged at her mother's hand, holding Teddy close. "Mommy, can we stay and play for a little while?" she asked eagerly, her eyes sparkling with excitement. The mother chuckled and looked at Barron. "I think we'll be here for a bit. It seems someone isn't ready to leave just yet," she said with a wink. Barron nodded. "That's the magic of this place, isn't it? It makes you want to stay just a little longer." As they parted ways, Barron watched as the little girl and her mother found a spot under a tree. The girl was giggling, holding Teddy up to the sunlight as if sharing her happiness with the world. It was a simple scene, yet it filled him with an unexpected sense of contentment. Barron turned and continued his walk, the sound of the girl's laughter echoing in his mind. He reflected on how such a small act, helping someone find a lost toy, had turned into something so meaningful. It wasn't just about finding a teddy bear. It was about creating a moment of connection and reminding someone that even in life's chaos, kindness could shine through. The park seemed quieter now, the hum of life around him soothing. Barron realized that the encounter had left a mark on him, a reminder to slow down and notice the smaller, quieter moments that often go overlooked. As he made his way toward the park's exit, he felt lighter, his thoughts clearer. He knew that life would continue to bring challenges, but moments like these gave him the strength to face them with a renewed sense of purpose. And as the sun dipped lower on the horizon, Barron took one last look at the park, the girl and her teddy bear. He smiled to himself, knowing that this memory would stay with him, a testament to the power of compassion and the beauty of human connection. As the conversation continued, Barron began to realize something special. The smallest, seemingly insignificant acts of kindness could create a ripple effect far beyond what he had ever imagined. Helping the little girl find her bear had set off a chain of events that not only restored her sense of security, but also reminded Barron of the importance of compassion in a world that so often feels overwhelming and impersonal. The little girl, holding her teddy bear close to her chest, looked up at Barron one last time before they parted ways. "I'm so happy," she said, her eyes sparkling. "Thank you for everything." Barron smiled warmly at her, his heart swelling. "You're very welcome," he replied. As the mother and daughter walked away, Barron paused, watching them for a moment. The weight of the experience settled in his chest. He hadn't just helped a little girl find something important to her. In doing so, he had discovered something important about himself. He had witnessed firsthand the power of kindness to change lives and heal hearts. In that moment, Barron realized that no matter what challenges lay ahead, no matter how difficult life might become, he would always carry with him the knowledge that even a single small act of kindness could make all the difference. Turning away from the park, Barron continued his walk through the city, his steps lighter than before. He had done something good, something meaningful, and the fulfillment it brought him was immeasurable. It wasn't about seeking recognition or praise. It was about the deep, unspoken connection that had formed between him, the little girl, and her family. It was about the joy that came from helping others, no matter how simple or small the task might have seemed. As he walked, Barron couldn't help but think that maybe, just maybe, there was more to life than the high-profile world he had grown up in. Perhaps it was these small, quiet, deeply human moments that were the most significant of all. The world would go on, life would continue, and challenges would come and go. But Barron knew deep down that the memory of that day, the day he helped a little girl find her lost teddy bear, would stay with him forever. It wasn't just a story of a boy helping a girl. It was a story of the profound impact kindness, compassion, and a simple willingness to help could have on the world. And so, Barron Trump continued his life, his heart a little fuller, a little more open, and ready to help those in need. Because in the end, he had learned the most important lesson of all. Sometimes, the most powerful actions come from the simplest of gestures.